All right, Jim will say good morning. Let's just spend a few moments this morning on Tzidkas Hatzaddik, just to chaparine a little bit, get a few words of inspiration from the Rebbe. So remember, we're picking up in Os Pei Hey 85, which is on page Reish Gimel. So if you remember again, the Rebbe was talking about the idea yesterday that when a person thinks that he's accomplished a great deal or that he's reached elevated levels in spirituality, that is often indicative of how little one has accomplished. Or in other words, the Rebbe teaches us the more you have actually accomplished, the more I've accomplished, the more I realize how little I have truly done and how much more there is to do. Again, not to be mistaken with a lack of with a lack of appreciation for what I've done. A person always has to have a appreciation and a hakar recognition of what they have done, what they have accomplished. But at the same time, what I've done should ultimately inform the reality of my knowledge of how little I've truly done and how much more I actually have to accomplish. So the Rebbe goes on, he says, if you take a look on page Reish Gimel, in the Be'urei Chasidus, the left-hand side, about halfway down the paragraph. Amru Chazal b'Zohar, Shlomo HaMelech Amar. So Chazal quote the idea, we see this in Zohar. Shlomo HaMelech said, King Solomon said, Simin de lo yada klum, shabuche. The sign that a person really knows very little, or knows nothing, shabuche, is ultimately, again, that a person praises himself. Self-praise and self-aggrandizement and a feeling of how I've arrived and how much I've accomplished is often indicative of how little I truly know. So both say, so again, the idea being the one coin in the receptacle makes a lot of noise. V'lav davka shabuche shemishtabeach b'kol ram v'gasus ruach b'fnei abrios rak gam mi shemisnase beino lebein asma ubelivo bilvad. Both say, by the way, so the Rebbe also here says something very interesting. Don't think that we're talking about a person who, let's say, is arrogant or boastful about his spiritual accomplishments in the eyes of others. We're not even talking about that. Even someone who doesn't say anything to other people, but in his own mind feels that he's accomplished so much, the Rebbe says that's the true detrimental mindset. A person who in his own mind thinks that he's arrived. A person who in his own mind thinks that he's accomplished. A person that in his own mind who thinks, look where I've gotten to where I need to get to. That, says the Rebbe, is where the true personalistic danger lies. If you take a look at footnote Gimel, he says something very interesting. Quotes over here by Dover Tzaddik, Kimosh Amru Chazal, Ezu Chacham, who is one who is truly wise? And I will say this is such a profound idea. Hamakir es makomo. Someone who knows his place. Who is one who is truly wise? Someone who knows his place. Now, we'll say, now what does that mean to know your place? Shehu makir chesrono. Knowing my place means I know what I am, but I also know what I'm not. I know where I'm deficient. I know where I am lacking. I know where I am imperfect. Zeh tachlis hayediya shelo nada. Aval istira beligina kish kish umiskaya. So it's such a, we're often used to Ezu Chacham, Halo B'nei Mikol Adam, who is wise, someone who learns from every person. All of that is true. But Ezu Chacham, Hamakir es Makomo, knowing my place. And specifically, says Reb Tzaddik, knowing my place means I know what I am, but I know what I'm not. And I'm fully cognizant of my deficiencies and my shortcomings, and fully cognizant of the fact that as much as I have accomplished, it is only the tip of the iceberg. Turn the page, the Rebbe says, Ki ikar, this is very interesting, Ki ikar psul hagaiva, hu lo b'hanhagas hanikeres klape chutz. Rebbe says, this is a profound statement. The Rebbe says, the most destructive form of gaiva, the most destructive form of arrogance, has nothing to do with how you interact with others. Ela begaiva hanisteres belibo levad. Rather, the most destructive form of arrogance is arrogance that I maintain and contain within. And I was saying, I think very often we don't think this way. I think, we often think that the most destructive gaiva is the gaiva kind of visited upon others, external gaiva. External gaiva, right? The person who acts in a boastful or arrogant fashion towards other people. The Rebbe says that's bad. Don't get me wrong. The Rebbe says that's definitely bad. But the truth is, the most destructive form of gaiva, the kind of gaiva that really pulls the rug out from under yourself, the kind of gaiva that erodes a person from the inside out, is a gaiva beino liatzmo. Beino liatzmo, a personalistic gaiva, a feeling that, okay, we'll say, there are a lot of times a person could project, right, an air of humility, klape chutz. Right, to the outside world, I could look very humble. To the outside world, I could look very pious. But there's a gaiva that's inside. That internal gaiva, says the Rebbe, erodes a person from the inside out, because that inner gaiva takes away the need to grow. That inner gaiva prevents me from moving myself forward. That inner gaiva that makes me feel, oh, I've arrived, I'm good, is what takes away any traction for growth. He says, Amar, To'evas Hashem kol giva leiv. What does the pasuk say in Mishlei? To'evas Hashem. The abomination to Hashem is giva leiv, one who has an inflated, right, or arrogant heart. So it's interesting. It doesn't say To'evas Hashem, gaiva that you express towards others, giva leiv. An inflated feeling, or I should say, a feeling of self-inflated, a feeling of overinflated self-worth, a feeling of I've arrived, a feeling of look, I'm good, I've accomplished. That ultimately is the greatest abomination to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, I will say, if you think about this, by the way, that's a pretty strong statement. Really, that's the greatest abomination. Inner gaiva, inner arrogance is the greatest abomination. I can think of a lot of stuff that seems to be much worse than personalistic gaiva. But Elamai, you see, the Rebbe says, why is it considered to be an abomination? He says, ultimately, again, kishesavar ha'adam umedam li'atzmo shu be'emes came. Because I will say, at the end of the day, when a person possesses gaiva, when a person possesses arrogance, and they feel they've arrived, they feel they've accomplished, they feel there's nothing more for me to do, that's the end of the line. That's the end of the line. And that is the greatest affront to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person feels like there's no need for growth, when a person feels like there's no need for improvement, when a person feels like there's no need for personalistic development, that in and of itself is the greatest affront and greatest abomination to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we'll stop over here for today. We're going to pick up tomorrow. We'll finish the Os tomorrow. The Rebbe has a very, very powerful piece about Cain and the original mistake of Cain, and I mentioned that'll help to frame this concept. We'll stop here.